Hello, we're going to go through some notes together in this video. If you would rather, instead of watching the video, if you would rather use the textbook, you, I don't know, you can try to use the textbook. It's pages 503 to 509. But I think it'd be more successful just watching the video. You guys already watched videos like this on Khan Academy last week, but I'm adding to it here. So let's get started. So this is chapter 8-6. We're going to be solving quadratic equations. If possible, print this out and follow along with the video. If you can't print it, just do it on notebook paper. Once you're done, take a picture and submit it to Schoology. Okay, so when it comes to quadratics, again, like I said in a previous video, it's called a quadratic because the independent variable x is squared. It's really important to put the equation into standard form. This means that the exponents are in order from high to low. So what that means is that x squared should always be in front of bx, should always be in front of c. It shouldn't be x squared is in the middle or x squared is in the end. X squared should always be first, x to the first should always be in the middle, and then the constant c should always go at the end. So make sure it's always in the correct order. The other really important thing to know is if it's an equation, meaning there is an equal sign in the problem, not just an expression. Our last video was an expression handout. These are equations. They have equal signs. If it is an equation, the equation should always be set equal to 0. And this is a fact to get very used to when it comes to quadratics. Should always be set equal to 0, like it is here in the heading. So make sure your problem's in standard form and that it's set equal to 0 before you even start. Step 1 in solving is to factor. Step 2 is to set each factor equal to 0. And then step 3 is to solve the mini equation. Let's try it. Here's our first example. We need to factor, which is what we worked on in the previous video and what you learned last week. We need to find two numbers that multiply to 20 and add to 9. So I'm thinking 4 times 5. 4 times 5 is 20, and 4 plus 5 is 9. So step 1 is to rewrite this equation in factored form. X plus 4, x plus 5 equals 0. This is the exact same equation, just written differently. If I was to FOIL it or multiply it, I would get the standard form. So this is standard form. And this is factored form. Now, a lot of people, if they watched a previous video or did the work last week, are going to stop here. But when it comes to solving, having equal signs, when it comes to solving equations, there are more steps. We're going to head to step 2, set each factor equal to 0. And you'll begin to understand why we set these equal to 0 more when we start to graph. But the real reason, and I think we talked about this in class before, is the zero product property. If the factors multiplied together equals 0, then one or both of these factors equals 0. So just trust me for now, set both of them equal to 0, and then we're on step 3, solve each mini equation. When I say solve the mini equation, we're going to look at both of these and get x alone. So on this side, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides of the equal line, and I get x equals -4. And on our other equation, I'll subtract 5 from both sides of the equal line, and I get x equals -5. So this quadratic equation has two answers, -4 and -5. Let's try another one. Number 2, notice that it doesn't say x, it says d. It doesn't matter, it's still a quadratic, we're going to do the same thing. We need to find numbers that will multiply to 24 and add to 11. 8 times 3 is 24, and 8 plus 3 is 11, so those are our numbers. We're going to write this in factored form. D plus 8 parentheses d plus 3 equals 0. So that's the factored form. Now I'm going to go to step 2. I'm going to write these as two little mini equations. Each factor comes out as a little mini equation. And then I will solve the mini equations. If I wanted to get d alone here, I would subtract 8 from both sides, and I get d is -8. If I want to get d alone here, I subtract 3 from both sides, and I get d is -3. In this quadratic has two answers. D is -8 and D is -3. Number 3. Caution, we got a problem here. This quadratic equation is not in standard form. You need to rewrite it. You can't even start the problem the way it is. It needs to be rewritten. We need the x squared first, 10x in the middle, and the 9 goes last. And so I'm allowed to rewrite that. That's the commutative property of addition. I can change the order here on this side of the equal sign. Those terms can commute and change which order they're in. That's just fine. Now I need to factor. Now it is in standard form. We can factor. What multiplies to 9 and adds to 10? I'm going to have to go with 1 times 9 is 9, and 1 plus 9 is 10. So our numbers are 1 and 9. We'll put it in standard form. X plus 1 and x plus 9, and you can put the 9 first and the 1 second, it doesn't matter. Step 2 in solving is to write both factors as mini equations. And step 3 is to solve. So I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides in my first equation, and I get x is -1. Subtract 9 from both sides of the equal sign in our second mini equation, and I get x is -9. And those are the answers to number 3. It's interesting how quadratics often have two answers. Okay, number 4. This is in standard form. Set equal to 0. We're good to go. We need to find numbers that multiply to 21, add to -22. What are they? Let's go with -1 times -21. That would be a +21. And -1 plus a -21 is -22. So our numbers are going to be m-1, m-21 equals 0. Okay. Step 2 is we want to set both of these factors equal to 0 in little mini equations. Now in our first mini equation to get m alone, I would add 1 to both sides because that cancels the 1 out and I get m equals 1. And over here I'll add 21 to both sides to cancel the 21 out and get m alone, and m is 21. This quadratic has two answers, +1 and +21. Two more. Wow. Caution. This equation is not equal to 0. It must be rewritten. Before you can go through the steps, you have to rewrite this equation in correct form. Standard form would have equals 0 here. So I need to cancel this 15 out. I'm going to subtract it to cancel it on both sides of the equal line. It's going to give me x squared plus 2x minus 15 equals 0. Notice the 15 doesn't actually get subtracted from the 2x. They're not like terms. We just have a -15 over on the left side, and now our equation equals 0, which is what our goal was. So our real problem is x squared plus 2x minus 15. That's the correct form. What are we going to do? We need to multiply to -15, add to 2. I'm going to go with 5 times -3. 5 plus a -3 is 2, so those are our numbers. This is going to be x plus 5, x minus 3, and I know coming up with those numbers is difficult. You need to practice it yourself. Practicing factoring is what makes it easier, and the more you practice, the more you can do it in a quick way. So if you're having a hard time with that, just stay with it. Little baby equations are next. Set them both equal to 0 and solve. So in order to get x alone, I have x plus 5 equals 0. I want to cancel the 5 out. The opposite of adding 5 is subtracting 5. So I have x equals -5. Over here, I want to cancel a -3. The opposite of subtracting is adding. That's how you cancel out, getting x alone, and x is 3. So the solutions to number 5 are -5 and +3. Last problem. Caution needs to be rewritten. I'm going to start by canceling the 18 out and moving it to the other side of the equal line. Subtracting it cancels it, leaving a 0 next to the equal sign, which is what we want. I'm not just moving it, I'm actually subtracting it because it is a +18. Should be a baby. Okay, so now I'm going to factor what multiplies to -18 and adds to -7. X minus 9, x plus 2. We need little mini equations next. Add 9 to both sides. Subtract 2 from both sides. Sorry, I'm running out of time.